What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be diving deep into the new helical magazine attachment for the PPSh-41. This one is quite interesting, so let's dive right into this. And first off, I want to point out this is available in the Nuketown Block Party event, which just requires you to play the game and earn XP. And with it, it behaves a lot like the belt-fed mod for the LMGs. So instead of having multiple magazines, you have one magazine with all of your ammo in it, and it can overheat if you hold the trigger down for too long. In addition to that, we do get boosted damage at medium range, improved vertical and horizontal recoil, and improved aim walking speed. However, there is one downside that's not mentioned in the cons here at least, and that is there is aim down sight spread with this, which we will look at once we get to recoil. But first, let's start this off with the main difference with the Helical Mag, and that is the magazine itself. With this, you spawn in with a capacity of 320 rounds. I don't know how they all fit in there. It's definitely some magic going on, but there's 320 rounds in there. And as I said, that's your entire ammo. You don't have like a reserve ammo and you can't reload or anything. It's just like that belt-fed mod, just with fewer rounds. And with this, you can fire continuously for about 3.2 seconds before an overheat. That allows you to fire 52 continuous rounds. Although if you tap fire a little bit or just fire in short bursts, you can obviously keep going for much longer than that. And if you do overheat the gun, the cooldown on that will be 3 seconds. So it does take a little while. You definitely want to avoid getting all the way to the point where you're overheating. And then finally, it is worth noting you can refill this ammo with scavenger packs as well as munitions boxes. So you can potentially just have infinite ammo with this as well, and you never need to reload. Next, let's have a look at those mid-range damage improvements. And as you can see here, for the second and third damage range, we are dealing more damage, and it's going to take us one fewer shot to kill within each of those ranges. So instead of a 5, 6, 7, and 8 shot kill, it's now going to be a 5, 5, 6, 8 shot kill. And on top of this, something that wasn't mentioned is our headshot damage multiplier is also improved up to 1.25. Now, realistically, headshots are still not going to be all that great to be going for with this gun, unless you're using the CHF barrel, which also gets a boosted multiplier at 1.35. But when we factor the spread in with this gun, generally speaking, there's no point in actively trying to aim for the head. You're better off just shooting them in the body. As for ranges, it turns out not only were our damage values increased for those mid-ranges, we also saw some actual damage range improvements here. And as we can see, our 5-shot kill potential went from about 14 meters up to 28 meters now with the Helical Mag. And within that 5-shot kill, a 252 millisecond time to kill is excellent. So that is a massive improvement there. It's also worth noting our bullet velocity is unchanged with this compared to the base at 530 meters per second. So just looking at that so far, this is looking incredibly powerful compared to the base PPSh. But that's just the beginning. Next, let's have a look at our hipfire spread. And while looking at the advanced stats, it says our maximum spread didn't change. Our minimum spread is very noticeably better with the Helical Mag at roughly 2.8 degrees based on hand testing. And then I also just tested when firing the gun, the worst it gets is about 5 degrees with the Helical Mag, whereas without the Helical Mag, it's almost 7 degrees. So even while firing, we're seeing some really nice improvements here. And I feel like this level of power just doesn't really show up when just looking at the advanced stats for this. So this absolutely excels when it comes to hipfire. After that, let's get into recoil, but before we look at the actual recoil pattern, it is worth taking a look at that aim down sight spread. And essentially what this means is your shots are not always going to go perfectly at your point of aim. It will have some random deviation even with the first shot that you fire. This isn't like a blooming effect where you start off perfectly accurate, but then as you fire, the cone increases like you would see in like Battlefield, for instance. With this, it's just literally every shot you fire is going to have some random deviation attached to it, which will significantly limit this gun at longer ranges. And now that we understand that, let's have a look at our recoil, which realistically, the gun isn't actually climbing all that much. We've got very little recoil. Most of the deviation you're seeing here is just coming from that aim down sight spread. So it is actually quite easy to control this gun. You just have to start relying on luck a little bit as you stretch your ranges out. But realistically, if you're just keeping yourself within the typical SMG ranges, this amount of spread really shouldn't be affecting the outcome of gunfights all that often. Maybe every now and then you'll get unlucky, but for the most part, you should be able to stay on target. Now with my testing, it didn't look like you were able to improve this spread at all with any attachments, aside from one attachment in particular, and this is the tactical laser. What I noticed with this is you actually get less spread while in tac stance compared to aiming down sight. Obviously, there's still going to be spread. That's inherently how tac stance works, is you are trading off the pinpoint accuracy of aiming down sight in order to get some movement and handling benefits of tac stance. But it turns out in this case, our aim down sight spread is worse than our tactical stance spread. So if you want to improve that, use the tactical laser, and I would highly recommend pairing that with this attachment if you're going to be using the Helical Mag. And this just leaves us with one last important stat change with the Helical Mag, and this is our aim down sight movement speed, which is increased from 3.6 meters per second up to 3.9 meters per second. And that's a really solid aim walking speed for an SMG, especially when you consider the fact that there are other attachments that can improve this even further. And since it excels so much in tack stance, you also get a faster aim down sight movement speed if you're in a tack stance aim down sight. So there's definitely a lot of potential there, and we're going to be seeing that potential in my recommended class setup if you are going to be using the Helical Mag. I've only got one for you just because I feel this is just objectively the best way to use this. Although there is one attachment I'll mention that you could swap out based on preference. But with this setup, we've got the suppressor to stay off the radar, the long barrel to increase our 5-shot kill range up to 36.4 meters, which is ridiculous for an SMG. I'm using the Infiltrator stock on here, which is the one attachment that could be swapped out. The reason I went Infiltrator is this absolutely maximizes our aim walking speed, and when combining this with tack stance and slipstream, this brings our aim walking speed up to 5.25 meters per second. So you can aim and walk faster than you can hipfire walk around the map with this, and that is absolutely ridiculous. The only downside with this is it doesn't help our slide to fire and dive to fire time, so you might be limited if you really like sliding into gunfights. And therefore, the one variation of this is you could swap out the Infiltrator stock for the ergonomic stock, which still does help a little bit with your aim walking speed, just not as much as the Infiltrator stock. And then on top of that, we get improvements to our slide to fire and dive to fire times. But for me, at least, I went with the Infiltrator stock. And then finally, of course, we are topping it off with that tactical laser, and I'm using tack stance all the time with this. Or, I mean, you can definitely hip fire right up close as well. I just don't use this in actual aim down sight, since tack stance is more accurate than aiming down sight. And that right there is my new favorite build for the PPSh. I definitely think this is head and shoulders above the base PPSh or any other PPSh build in the game. Obviously, you want to also pair this with Scavenger, or just make sure you use a munitions box and throwing those down to replenish your ammo. And then, of course, I do like using this with Slipstream as well. And if you guys are still playing Black Ops 6 and you haven't tried this one out yet, I would highly recommend giving it a shot. I think it's one of the most interesting and unique additions to the game in quite some time, which is so unfortunate because if they would have been adding weapon mods like this throughout the year on a much more consistent basis, if we would have seen something like this every couple of weeks, for instance, throughout the game's life cycle, I think it really would have maintained my interest in the game a whole lot more because there's nothing else in the game quite like this. I mean, you could argue the belt-fed mod on LMGs, but that's an LMG. This is an SMG, and therefore you get that belt-fed ability with the mobility of an SMG, and I just think it's so cool and adds an interesting dynamic to the gameplay. But unfortunately, they saved it for so long and added it so late in the life cycle that there are very few people left that are actually going to unlock and enjoy this weapon mod, which is just a big missed opportunity because I think this is excellent. Now, one last note I wanted to mention here as well, a little hidden change that went through with this update as well on the PPSh is Extended Mag 2, the drum mag, will give you the proper 71 rounds now, which matches the real-life drum mag on a PPSh. And this is a significant improvement from the previous 55 rounds that this same attachment would provide for you. And there we go. That's going to wrap it up for today's video, and this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you guys feeling about the Helical Mag on the PPSh-41? Do you guys like this attachment? Do you guys think it's really good, really bad, maybe a little too good? Just let me know all of those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.